Welcome everybody to today's webinar, which is all about menopause awareness, and we've particularly designed this session for partners. And I thought I'd just give a bit of context as to why we did that. There was the Construction Inclusion Coalition held a conversation at the All Industry Conference back in June in Barcelona, and there was a panel discussion around inclusion and how we make our workplaces more inclusive, and the topic of menopause actually came up. And what I know is a lot of our businesses are doing work on menopause for women in their businesses who are going through the menopause, and what a request came up from the conference was, can we do something more for partners? So although this is open to anybody, so everyone's welcome, the reason we've designed this particularly for people who know very little about the menopause and want to know more so they can support their partners, their sisters, their mothers, their colleagues. So it's not an in-depth, it's more of an overview, and we're hoping that if you enjoy the session, you might think, oh, we might want to run some of these sessions in your own businesses. So it's a bit of a taster session for those of you who know a bit more about menopause, and for those of you who know nothing, you're in the right place, because this is where you should be. So before I introduced Joe, I just wanted to I think you're doing this already, but turn your microphones off while Joe's talking. Keep your cameras on though, please. If you'd like to ask a question as we go through, we're only a small group, so we're really happy for people to ask questions as we go through, or use the chat box. If you want to ask a question, raise your hand, and if you're not familiar with Google, I'm trying to think, where has it gone now? I've got the where's the hand button gone? Oh yeah, along the very bottom of the screen. You can see the red button that says leave call. If you go to the left of that, you see the hand button. So if you want to raise your hand, and I'll keep an eye on the hand so we can make sure we call you in. And as I said before, this session will be recorded and shared. So I'd like to just hand over now to Jo, and I'll let Jo introduce herself. And hang on, we've got one more coming in. I'll let Jo introduce herself, and then we'll crack on. So over to you, Jo.
Lovely, thank you, Anthea. Morning, everyone. On this lovely grey Thursday, we're nearly there. It's nearly the weekend. So a little bit about me. I'm Jo. I'm a couple counsellor. I've been a couple counsellor for about 20 years. I also work with families and young people and individuals. And I was recognising that a lot of couples were coming at a certain time of life where the female was experiencing perimenopausal symptoms and the impact that was having on their relationship. So I did a menopausal wellness practitioner course, and that enabled me to gain that better understanding, both professionally and for myself, and helped me realise that it's the partners that also need support during that phase of life. So I'm married to my long-suffering husband, who I'm sure will confirm that for those that know him, Darren. As I myself have been perimenopausal, and we've got 2 grown-up children who are currently living away from home. So obviously he's been even more long-suffering because it's been just me and him. So why are you here? So you could be sat there thinking, well, someone else is going on banging on about the menopause, but like we said, it's hopefully going from a different slant, and aiming this at the partners, and hopefully you'll gain that better understanding for yourself. And I think it's just important to recognise that it's not just a woman's issue, it's a relationship issue, it's a family issue, and then also a workplace issue. So a lot of women enter this stage of life not really understanding or knowing themselves, and quite unprepared as to what to expect. So how can we then expect their partners to understand this? So their workshop is to increase and develop your awareness and understanding and knowledge of the perimenopause, and use that awareness to support family, friends, colleagues. We'll look at what the changes are that a woman's body can go through and how they can affect her, and have the effect that it can have on relationships. And we'll be making that link then between supporting those outside of the workplace through their journey, and hopefully bringing you a greater appreciation of what your colleagues of work could be going through and how best to support them. So just for the purpose of the workshop, I'd like to just say that the biological gender terms women, woman and female are to include all those that will or have experienced menstruation, perimenopause and menopause. I'm not medically trained, so obviously, any medical advice should be sought through a health professional. I'd like to just take a minute just to think about all the females that you know in your life, young, old, girlfriends, mums, sisters, and what stage of life they're at the moment. And as we go through the presentation, I want you to just keep them in mind and then think about, are they perimenopausal? Are they menopausal? Is it something that you've talked about? And to remember that all women will go through this stage of life. Like we said, there's a lot of information on the slide, so if you want any hands out at the end, please just ask. And yeah, like we said, just use the chat facility if you want to ask questions as we go along rather than saving them up. So it is a very taboo subject still. It's getting better, we're getting better at talking about it, but it's still quite a taboo subject. So in a recent survey, 75% of the respondents said that menopause was never talked about in their home while they were growing up, and only 1% said it was discussed on a regular basis. There's a lot of taboos around menopause which may limit the discussions, and that then results in that lack of knowledge and understanding. So it's probably been linked to the negative undertones about the stigmas of aging, and yet we've got to try and look at it as a transition stage. It can be a real time of life to make changes, to reflect, and just remembering that it is a normal and biological stage of life for a woman. Hopefully we can start to view things differently, and I'm hoping that maybe my daughter won't need this sort of workshop as she's growing up, and that we will have started to increase that education and understanding and knowledge, and that it's just part and parcel of a woman's health and her career throughout her career. And then sorry, Andy, if we just go back a second, before we go to the next slide, I just want you to take a minute, if you can, if you can use the chat facility maybe, just to list some of the symptoms that you know about. I mean, there's the obvious ones that, most of us talk about, the hot flushes or the brain fog. I just wondered if you could just take a minute just to think and use that chat facility to log any other symptoms that you're aware of, either yourself or your partner or anybody that you've experienced or they've experienced. If you could just have a think about that. Sorry, Anthony, you're on mute.
I was going to say, if you want to come off mute and you can shout some of them out. We've got some stuff coming up now. So we've got angry, we've got hair loss, we've got hot flushes, insomnia, skin sensitivities, anxiety or mood disorders, anxiety, varying emotions, anxiety, sleep issues, frozen shoulder.
Yeah,
so quite a lot coming up there. Yep.
Oh, you're all very knowledgeable. Brilliant. All right, so on the next slide, we'll just take a minute just to look at the amount of symptoms that are connected with the perimenopause, and you can see that by that, the number of symptoms, that it can really impact on the quality of life and then also on relationships. So yeah, a lot of what you've all mentioned are in there, and some. Some that you wouldn't even think of.
Yeah. Burning tongue.
I know. Yeah, and the tingling. There's the more common ones, like the mood changes. There's anxiety, and we'll look at it in a bit more later. But depression is becoming more and more linked with this stage of life as well.
And Jo, isn't it true that everyone experiences it differently? So
yes,
some people might get hot night sweats, and some people might not get them, for example. The most common one.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, this is just a wide range, and you're very unfortunate, I think, if you've probably got all of those. But yeah, I think you know, some will experience some of them. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, lovely, thank you.
Yep.
So, what is the perimenopause? It's basically transition phase. So it's when it's transitioning into menopause. The body is moving towards the end of its reproductive years, and for some women, it can start as early as their mid-30s or as late as the mid-50s. So it simply is about when that cycle is no longer predictable. There are physical changes and symptoms as the body's adjusting to different hormone levels, and that then impacts basically every system within the body. For some, it's a very short period of time. For some, it can last for years. The lucky ones can pretty much sail through, which is brilliant, and for others, it can be quite debilitating. So basically, you're out of perimenopause and into the menopause once you've had 12 consecutive months without a period. And because the symptoms are so varied and at different times, a lot of women don't realise that they actually are in the perimenopause. So it can be subtle changes, you know, as well as the mood swings. It could be just feeling a bit anxious, things like that. So the symptoms also come and go. So it's sometimes hard to actually diagnose that you're in the perimenopause. So the early menopause is where it happens between the ages of 40 and 45. It's experienced by about 5% of women. There's two common types of reasons for early menopause. One being the surgical menopause, where a woman's ovaries are removed and then the hormones level plummet and she immediately experiences the menopause. And then there's the medical, where the ovaries stop working due to chemotherapy or other medication or radiotherapy. Having the early menopause can increase risk of osteoporosis, which is the weak bones, or cardiovascular heart disease. And this is where HRT plays a role, because it can reduce the risks of further or future ill health, as well as controlling the menopausal symptoms. So before the menopause, the risk of heart disease for women is lower than that of men. But then the risk of heart disease after the menopause, and an important contributory factor to this is the loss of the estrogen. So women are twice as many women die from heart disease as from breast cancer, and the estrogen protects the heart, the effect on the heart, and the loss of estrogen can contribute to changes that increase the risk of the heart disease. So the current recommendation is that women experiencing an early or premature menopause should be offered the hormone replacement therapy unless there's a medical reason not to take it, and should continue to at least the average age of menopause. We're not putting anything new into our bodies, we're just literally replacing the hormones that are decreasing. So the biology bit. The hormones. So there's three main sex hormones, and that's estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. And the change in levels of estrogen with age and the ratio of the three hormones result in the physical changes in the body and the mind, known as the signs and symptoms. And it can only take a small amount of change in the hormones to cause quite a considerable change in the body. So either too much or too little of a hormone can be a problem. Every cell and every organ in our body is affected by hormones. So our bones, our heart, our brain, metabolism are all impacted by hormones. And it's that lack of knowledge about what our hormones do within our body that leaves women unsure what to do and how best to treat that. So the hormones. So the estrogen is the one that it has countless functions. So it protects our nervous and digestive systems, our bones, our hearts. And when that rapidly declines, as it does in perimenopause, we feel that everywhere, including in our moods. So when the estrogen is, levels are changing rapidly, our whole systems are having to adapt to that. The decline isn't slow and steady. It can be all over the place. It's quite erratic, as then reflects in the moods. Progesterone regulates a lot of functions in the body, such as the brain function, the bone strength, inflammation, nerves, respiration. This is the one that also helps with our sleep and calms the nervous system. So as our ovulation becomes unpredictable, years before the menopause, the progesterone can fluctuate, and that's when we can end up feeling exhausted, absolutely shattered, but we're not getting that restorative sleep that we need, because that hormone that once settled our system is slipping away. So the testosterone, when we think of testosterone, we naturally think of men, but females produce 3 times as much testosterone before the menopause as estrogen, and it's just as essential for us. It works in conjunction with our sex drive, our confidence, our mental clarity, mood stabilizer. So as that declines, that can then result in the low libido, the brain fog, and the drop in confidence. So in men, testosterone falls gently, about 1% per year from midlife onwards. So try to think about it, if men had a sudden drop in testosterone in just a few short years, what that would feel like. So menopause is one of the steepest hormonal changes that our bodies will go through. So when women are saying that they don't feel like themselves, they literally don't feel like themselves, but it's hormone driven rather than a personal failing. So as I said before, depression is linked with the menopause. A lot of women have negative thoughts about their menopause journey and also their symptoms. It's linked together because of how the physical changes can impact our lives, and our social networks and our work relationships, etc. So these are sort of the following comments are just the ones that I've heard from a lot of women that I've been working with, and they're saying, will I always feel depressed? I'm a bad person because I've got these mood swings. People are fed up with me because of menopause symptoms. And I think those negative feelings are far easier to have when we're feeling tired all the time, when we're fatigued, when our energy levels are low. Research indicates that a significant increase in the likelihood of depressed mood during the menopause is estimated at 3 times higher than in other life stages. Especially if women have got a history of depression, they're 5 times more likely to receive a major depression diagnosis during menopause. And I think there's a lot of confidence lost. There's a real feeling of being overwhelmed. And then if perhaps, you can get women who are leaving their jobs, who were used to be very capable, simply because they just don't feel like themselves anymore. They're not just normal symptoms of aging that you need to put up with, that they are caused by these hormone levels, and they deserve to be sort of recognised and treated properly. In the extreme cases, there have been some women who have been sectioned due to their mental health, which has later been attributed to the menopause. There's been occasions you might have seen in the news where women have taken their lives again, which have later been attributed towards them being in the perimenopause. So yeah, I think we just need to recognise the huge part that mental health plays in the menopause, and seeking that support. And I suppose that's where the partners come in, by helping women to recognise that they need to go and seek that support. So yeah, there's a few more comments there. The fear over, will my partner leave me because of my menopause? I can't do the things that I used to do. It's affecting my job. So the impact of stress and lifestyle on menopause. There are contributing factors that can make perimenopause worse, and stress is one of them. So cortisol is the body's main stress hormone. When it rises, it can make us feel agitated and stressed. The more stress we're under, the more our symptoms can worsen, the more the hormones decline, and we feel more stress. And then we're sort of like in this menopausal stress loop then. Our lifestyle and diet and general well-being all affect our menopause symptoms, and how we cope with them. So the tweaks with food and vitamins, alcohol consumption, exercise, they're all things that do make a difference to our menopause symptoms and the way that we're coping with them. So let's have a look at the impact on relationships. So a recent study said 7 out of 10 women blamed menopause symptoms for problems in their marriage, such as an increase in arguments, with 8 out of 10 of those women saying that perimenopause and menopause symptoms put an increased strain on marriage and family life. Dr. Louise Newson, she's a real advocate for recognising perimenopause and menopause symptoms, and she's a menopause specialist. She found that only 1/3 of the women were offered HRT. Those who were not offered the support felt that if they had, it may have helped save their marriage. So a lot of women can go from being able to juggle hectic lifestyles to struggling to cope with the basic day-to-day tasks. And it may be that their partners, i.e. you, may recognise that they're having trouble with managing day-to-day things and with their sleep. They may have gained weight, although you might not want to actually say that bit. They could be, in low mood, short temper, and yeah, just I think the partner then starts to recognise what's happening there. So how can you support? Any suggestions? Again, if you want to use the chat function, just to think, what could you do to support your partners, your friends, your colleagues through this time? Is there anything that comes to mind?
Use the chat or come off mute and talk to us.
I was just going to say patience and understanding.
Yes, huge. Yeah, which is hard to have sometimes when you're at the brunt of the the short temper and the anger. But yes, yeah, you're right.
And the sort of stresses that both partners might be under due to work or whatever.
Yeah,
that might result in arguments anyway. But layer this on top of that, then it just requires that extra little bit of patience and understanding, maybe just to step back a little bit.
Definitely, yeah. It's just taking that deep breath, isn't it, before you react or respond to something.
Yeah, and in the chat we've got similar things. We've got talking, understanding, supportive, listen, talk about it.
Yeah,
in the chat box.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes just being there it is enough. I think, just someone to actually be there and, like you say, show that support, showing an interest as well, that you're wanting to try and understand, can make a huge difference rather than just burying head in sand.
Yeah, Joe, there's another. Chris has said, trying not to rationalize it, not trying to fix it, which I think I know my husband's good at trying to fix things.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's
fixed.
Yes, it's a default, isn't it? Yeah, to try and fix it. But yeah, it's not everything can be fixed. So sometimes it is just listening, showing an interest, trying to understand, and talking. So communication is key. Talking is a really big thing here. Trying to talk things through and trying to understand each other's position. Just sitting with her, learning what her body's doing, going to appointments if she wants you there. She's probably unable sometimes herself to understand or articulate what she's experiencing, and she'll be as confused as well. So that then adds to that communication difficulties if there's some already there, and then that brings back that disconnection with each other. So I think if you can support your partner in exploring ways that she can help herself, and you help her, it will help increase her mood and her resilience, and trying to appreciate that menopause may feel like it's a time in life where everything is changing for her, and you can support and help with the exercise or the healthy eating, or just going for a walk. So yeah, I think helping partners be more aware of what's happening can help to alleviate that shared feeling of anxiety around what's happening and the confusion, and it creates a chance for the partners to bring a connection about here if that's possible. So the impact on you, which is why we're here. So the menopause can have a huge impact on partners, and colleagues as well. So I think there's days where you won't know what version of your partner you're getting. You could get the one who loves you, and the next day she literally wants to stab you. So I think it's just trying to I suppose ride the roller coaster with her, and it is hard to know what to expect. As we all know, our personal relationships impact on our own well-being and our interactions with others and our relationships at work, our productivity at work. If you've had a rubbish day, morning at home, and you've gone into work and you're in a bad mood, then it just carries on through the day. So I think it's in our probably your best interest to take that time and invest in your personal relationships, because they do have a knock-on effect with your work relationships as well. So yes, there are some positives. So yes, it can prevent a challenge in relationships, but it can also be an opportunity for growth, to bring about connection, and improved communication as well. It can bring about a deeper emotional connection, allowing partners to support and try and understand each other better, and can create a stronger bond as you empathize with your partner with the challenges that she's going through. It can bring about, maybe this stage of life also can bring about an increased freedom. If women have had children, it can bring a shift maybe at that time of life as well, as children are becoming more independent. It might leave you more time as a couple to share hobbies and spend time together, if that's what you want to do. Not everyone does. So we're remembering that it's a time of life that you can reflect and try and bring about changes to feel healthier, and it just gives us that opportunity probably to take stock of where we are in life, and what our priorities are and what we want to change in our lives. So making the connection. So one of the aims of the workshop was to make the link between supporting partners and family members, and then making that link with colleagues at work. And we've done the personal bit. Let's look at making that connection with menopause in the workplace now. It's still very taboo in the workplace, and again, we're hoping to improve that, and part of that is including men in our conversations and the training around perimenopause and menopause. It's supporting and creating a positive and open environment between the employer and someone affected by the symptoms, and it can, so that by creating that environment, it can prevent the person who's experiencing the symptoms from losing confidence in their skills and abilities, feeling like they need to take time off work and hide the reasons for it, having increased mental health problems such as stress and anxiety and depression, and even leaving their job. And research has found that 1 in 5 menopausal women do take time off to deal with the symptoms, and the businesses that don't support their employees are more than likely to be losing that valuable talent. It's a health and well-being issue for employees, but it can also cost the business in decreased performance and productivity and increased absence and turnover. So managers should be encouraged to talk about the menopause with staff alongside other equality and health and wellbeing topics. The UK government is taking steps to address the menopause in the workplace by promoting guidance and policies to support employees and improve retention. So if okay, we are going to just break off just for 4 or 5 minutes into groups, if that's okay, Anthea. And we're just going to think about what you've heard so far about perimenopause and menopause, and how you think those symptoms could affect somebody at work. What amendments can realistically be made in the workplace? And also, as a leader and a peer, what changes could you make to support? Bearing in mind that 8 out of 10 menopausal women are in work, so chances are, you know, your colleagues could be experiencing the symptoms. So we'll break off in, like I say, just talk through those things that are on the screen there, just for a few minutes, and then we'll come back together and just see what you think, you know, could be put in place at work.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, do you want to just take a minute, if you want to, feedback anything from your discussions that you've had, or what you think can be changed in the workplace? If anybody either wants to speak or type is fine.
Speak to us. Speak to us.
I know. Let me hear your voices.
Yeah, we had a good conversation around awareness is a really good start. So and we were thinking about kind of amendments and everything like that, and we had a conversation around better understanding all the various symptoms and therefore what kind of adjustments could we make. One of the suggestions was around almost linked to flexible working, kind of if someone was struggling with sleep because of things like night sweats, hot sweats, those side of things, or whatever it might be, is do we have that understanding, and therefore people can shift hours slightly, or they've just got that flexibility built in, and therefore that understanding that goes with it. So rather than seeing someone as unreliable or flaky and not turning up at the right time, so right, that's fine. But ultimately, kind of through awareness, having that workplace where people can discuss it, and therefore there are swings and emotions or whatever it might be, you've got that, you understand that, and if someone wants to go and take a few minutes to do something, or you don't react in a certain way because you understand why someone's maybe not how they usually are. So awareness is going to have to be a massive piece, I think. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Neil. That awareness brings about that understanding, doesn't it?
Yeah, and ideally in a world that people then can open up, go, I'm going through this, so if I am this or this or this, then please understand my, and that's absolutely fine. But that'd be almost a great place to be, as people can be that open, and maybe that's a long way down the line, I don't know. But
exactly, yes, it depends on the workplace culture, doesn't it? And how receptive people are to listen. Okay, great, thank you.
We've got a couple of hands up. Joanna, your hand's up. Do you want to go first? And then Chris, Joanna first. Can you come off mute, Joanna? No. Chris, do you want to go? Come off mute.
Yeah, can do. We mainly focused, to be fair, on the symptoms, but we talked about a couple which perhaps weren't as obvious. So, for example, we talked about, I know a colleague who sort of overnight almost was suddenly unable to drive long distances on the motorway and so on, and used to do that very regularly. So how do you accommodate someone that maybe does travel a lot with work, and suddenly just feels, her way of describing it is, that lorry is going to kill me if I overtake it. It's completely irrational. She's driven for 30 years, but now just can't. We also talked about things like even the clothing people have to wear, and if there's PPE that is very either tightly fitted or just heavy and thick, and how can you sort of accommodate for that as well. But I think just think about this is if I think, you know, how people say this lasts a long time and stuff, and maybe that's part of the issue for employers, how you accommodate it. If somebody developed a disability, you would do a workplace assessment, and you make sure somebody was able to be accommodated. I don't know this is treated in the same way, and perhaps that's part of the problem. Is actually this is about almost a a long-term permanent change to how that person, you know, is able to engage with work, and you sort of have to return to work, or some sort of way of reassessing their sort of long-term, because it can be 15 years of this, for example, if they you know, are relatively young when it starts. So how do you sort of view it almost like that? If someone had a disability that became permanent, you would adapt their work, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and I guess I'm just thinking, I think in the Employment Rights Bill there's some talk around some menopause requirements for employers, and I'm just wondering, if you want to be a really good employer, you get ahead of the game on that, don't you? So just what you said, Chris, maybe we should be saying, but people need to come forward and say I'm struggling, and if they do say I'm struggling, then we should automatically be thinking, right, okay, let's do a workplace assessment, and not wait for the law to tell us we need to do one. Yeah.
I know some companies have like a menopause adjustment form, and it's the same. It's assessing what adjustments need to be made, whether they're temporary or permanent, to accommodate that person. So every organisation is different in what they've already got in place, or what the potential of what they could have in place.
If anyone on the call's got anything like that Joe just mentioned that we can share with other members, please let me have it, and I'll stick it in our member resources library if anyone's got like a menopause adjustment checklist or whatever. So please share. Adrian, you've got your hand up as well.
Yeah, great, thank you. Sorry, I was being very polite there with virtual hand up. But no, because I was just thinking about what Chris and Neil have both just said there, when, you know, given the fact that it is a long-term thing, perimenopause can last many, many years, and, you know, I guess there's an assumption, if someone's not behaving like they normally behave, but what if that person's joined your team and your organisation, and they are in the middle of perimenopause, and you don't know what that other version of them actually was? You know what I mean? So and maybe maybe the person might not be completely aware of it themselves anyway, because, you know, that point about people not talking about it, people internalizing all this sort of stuff. So it's tricky, isn't it? And surely the best thing that we can do is, as leaders and managers, is just have an environment where people can talk about whatever they need to, and you can explore these things as they come up. But it just really struck me as you were talking there about, well, how do we know what the previous version was? You know, because you might not.
No, you're right. I think it's, well, you're reliant on that person, aren't you, telling you, but they're only going to tell you if they've got that open, inviting culture to be, and an environment to be able to do that. So it's about what culture are you creating for your team, your business, isn't it? Yeah. Thank you. So there's, like you said, there's a flexible approach that over start and finish times, maybe allowing them to take breaks when needed, providing a private area. So there are things, you know, allowing them to work from home where practical. You know, there are some accommodations that can be made. So if we go on to the next slide, so I suppose it's, do you know what your company are already doing? What have you got in place for women who are experiencing symptoms? Are you aware of if there's a menopause policy in place? If there is one, are you aware what that is? If you're a line manager, familiarising yourself with the adjustments that could be made. Like I said, there's some organisations use a tailored adjustment plan for menopausal symptoms, and then that records the adjustments that have been agreed between the person and their line manager, supporting them with their symptoms. Is there a peer support group? I know some companies have peer support groups for women to join. Is there any training for line managers to increase their awareness and how best to support? And I mean, if anyone is affected by the menopause, and they want to talk to someone other than their line manager, because that may not always work, there should be somebody else who that person can talk to within the workplace. Although obviously line managers should be involved in agreeing any changes. And then, yeah, do you create that environment and that culture where there is a time and space to discuss this subject? So perhaps there are things that you need to think about for your own organisation and what you've already got in place and what you could have in place. So menopause in the workplace. Women are often at the peak of their professional careers, and yet 25% do consider leaving their jobs. 14% go part-time and 10% actually do leave their jobs. So again, for employers, menopause is a health and well-being concern for staff, and it needs to be handled sensitively, and just making sure that their workplace environment isn't contributing or making their symptoms worse. So women over 50 are the fastest growing demographic in the workplace, and the average age of a woman going into a leadership role, according to FTSE 500, is 51. So we've got a real good workforce. We've got a good period of time, and we don't want to lose that. 3 out of 5 women, working women aged between 45 and 55 who are experiencing symptoms, said that it negatively impacts them at work. Productivity loss related to menopause is not just attributed to the symptoms, but it's actually the reporting of the symptoms and how is that received within the workplace and how are they treated if they do talk about it. So we need to be aware of those outdated stereotypes of midlife. Oh, you must be your age. They're seen as being very dismissive rather than empathetic. So I think we need to watch what language and terminology we use in here. And we need to improve on the slow and the lack of understanding around the symptoms of work and how they can affect some women. So we should be moving away from that, it being a taboo subject, and all working towards the work environment being an environment where women feel that they will be heard and not being scared to talk about it. So it can give staff more confidence to talk to the managers about their effects, the symptoms, if they know that their managers and their colleagues are trained in knowing how to talk and listen sensitively about the subject, and will help them to find ways to support them and have that knowledge and understanding of what the menopause is and its effect. So hopefully you're beginning to realise that menopause is so much more than just a hot flush and a bit of brain fog. And hopefully today has helped increase your awareness of what it is, and hopefully a bit more curious, and maybe you might start a conversation that you wouldn't have had before. So ACAS say that the starting point for understanding the needs of employees is to create an open and trusted environment in which workers feel confident in talking about their symptoms without fear of judgment or reprisal. The very individual experiences of the menopause make this even more crucial. So I think that's bearing it in mind probably for work and home, just having that understanding and a bit more appreciation. And if you think back to the beginning of the workshop and I asked you to just think about all the females that you know that you've got in your life or yourself, and maybe just give it a little bit more thought about what stage are they at. Do you recognise any of what we've talked about today in the females that you know in your lives, and will you do anything differently? So I suppose maybe just a little bit of what will you take away from today, if anybody wants to feedback from that.
Chris?
I think the key one is just how can we ensure the flexibility is actually flexible for what the range of needs might be. So it's not just, for example, okay, they might need to work from home more often, because that might not actually be an issue at all. They might not have any issue with sleep. It's other things that they might have issues with. But also I think that previous slide about the sort of productivity is this is a part of the workforce that we want to bring into the workforce. So there's a huge business case for just improving it. Even if we take out the sort of the woolly stuff about it's just good for the people affected, the business case there is that that's a demographic that want to work. How do you accommodate them to enable them to work as you would with a Gen Z employee and all of their wants and needs? So it's always at the other end of that scale, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. And we are all having to work later, aren't we? And longer, you know, retirement age is increasing, etc. Cost of living. So there's a real period of time there to focus on. Yeah.
And Hayley said they're going to be looking at rolling out a menopause policy and training and awareness in their business.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay. So yes, just remembering that something as simple as having a conversation can help, and what is it I can do to support you is a real good opener. All right, thank you all for listening today. Like I said, there's some websites there. The Louise Newson is brilliant. Dr. Louise Newson, her podcasts are great. That she also always has a lot of guests talking. And there's a Balance app again. You know, just take a screenshot of those because
I'll send you these slides out afterwards to everybody.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. But they're all really good resources.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay.
All right.
Any final questions? Because we're on time.
Perfect.
So thank you, Joe, and thank you everyone for coming.